In just his second term as Member of Parliament, he was made a minority chief with quite an achievement. He also served in various capacities as Deputy Minister of Communications under the Kufuor administration specifically. He served as ranking member for the Communications Committee as well as member of the ECOWAS Parliament since 2011 till he exited in 2021. That's quite some time in office. His name is Frederick Opare-Ansah. And when we come back from this break, I'm going to take you straight to meet him, and then we can pick his minds on a variety of subjects. Stay with us. Welcome back to Spotlight. Thank you for staying. I mentioned before that break that we're speaking with Honorable Frederick Opare-Ansah, who used to be Member of Parliament for the Suhum Constituency. Honorable, good evening and thank you for joining us on Spotlight.
Good evening and thank you for the invite.
What have you been up to since you left Parliament?
Well, after leaving Parliament in January, I suddenly felt quite...
That's pretty recent.
Recent, very like five months ago. I started feeling very liberated.
Liberated?
That's how I like to describe it.
I see.
For 16 years, I had been, if you will, cocooned into a constituency.
I think some people say this is a very nice cocoon.
Well, I am a person that likes to move around and about, and then suddenly for 16 years, it was a bit difficult leaving the constituents when there are pressing matters at home to attend to. But suddenly, I am able to go anywhere across the country. When I talk of being cocooned, I mean whenever I'm inside Ghana, it would be difficult to find an excuse not to be in the constituency. But now I can go to Kumasi when it is not a parliamentary committee assignment. I can go to Tamale, I can go to Wa, I can go to Bolga, and I have been doing this over the past 5 months, traveling around the country to get a feel of what the party really looks like. And you know, I rode on the back of the party in the constituency.
So you're still doing party work?
I'm still doing party work, encouraging grassroots and foot soldiers to work harder to keep the party in power and also to fight harder to retain the party come 2024. Basically,
you've been on the road campaigning.
I wouldn't say a campaign, but let's say tomorrow there is a funeral in Chira. One of our foot soldiers lost a daughter, Keke, and he's invited me. And I'm thinking I may have to leave some assignments I have in Suhum this weekend and travel to Chira in the the Bron region now. When I get there, apart from attending to that particular event which took me there, I will also use the opportunity to interact with party people. So it's not like a campaign.
It looks like the party is central to almost everything you do.
Absolutely. I mean, I am a through and through party person, so anything I do, I have to make sure that my party comes first.
I understand you studied electrical engineering
in
school. Have you ever used it?
Yes, I practiced electrical engineering. At our time, we had two sides to it. We had heavy power and then we had light power, which light power covered electronics, telecoms, and the rest. I was a telecom engineer for several years. Worked in Ghana, in Liberia, Nigeria, Kenya. I did major work as a telecoms engineer before I entered Parliament 10 years after leaving the university.
Honorable, there's a pressure group called Fix the Country. It's propelled mainly by young people, also supported by a significant number of people. there are concerns over around the need for more jobs and better jobs, less corruption, fewer taxes, better education. Do you think they're justified?
Well, I would say coming at this time, I believe it has some antecedents. We saw the president come into office in 2017, and he was on course to deliver his mandate very well into the third year, even the fourth year, early 2020. We hadn't had any call of fix the country. So clearly people could see that he was doing the job for which they recruited him by voting him into office.
But they're here now, doesn't mean he's not doing the job.
No, that is why I said I'm sure there are some antecedents to this call. But we all know what has happened over the last 1 year, the incidence of this pandemic.
Okay.
You know, so it has brought pressure on people. It has brought home some issues, which is probably what is leading to this particular call at this time. Now, I'm not hearing people saying that leave the scene, you can't do the job. I'm hearing people say that fix it. Now, if I come to you and I tell you to get something done, for me, it's an indication that I have confidence in you that you will be able to do that thing. So
you
I
think this is an indirect?
As a confidence call on the president. People are saying, fix it because we know you can. It is not fix it and if you can't leave. No, it is fix it because we know you can. We've seen you do some work in your first term. You came in and brought in free SHS, you brought in all these restoration of allowances and several other things. The reduction in electricity tariffs, for instance. I have a factory, and it was one of the things which helped sustain my factory's operations. Because up to 2017, my factory had been operating on a generator for about a year because we couldn't profitably sustain paying electricity bills. But around March 2017, when we lowered tariffs on electricity, we were then able to reconnect to ECG. So clearly, people have confidence in the president, in his abilities to fix the issues of the nation. But you know, it's a democracy.
There's no way they can even say he should leave the scene when it's not time for him to leave the scene.
But that is just an example. We have also heard people call previous presidents certain tasks when they felt that they were not up to the task. That is not what I'm hearing. And that is why I'm saying that when people feel that you are not up to the task and they are making a call on you, you hear different things. I'm not hearing anybody saying that the president is incompetent and cannot do the job. They are drawing his attention that as a result, in my view, of the pandemic, we are in a tight situation now and we need you, who we know can do this, to fix it.
But you know, some people also hold the view that it's more of a vote of no confidence in his ability.
I do not share that view at all. I mean, we should not just look at Ghana as an island. Look at the way this pandemic has been handled by the government. We are receiving commendation from even some of renowned world leaders on the way we handle the pandemic and the challenges that are occurring across the countries, not just the countries, across the globe.
But some of these challenges existed even before the pandemic.
But that's why I was saying that the challenges of the pandemic has made it even more acute. So if you had the laxity of time to say fix this in maybe 5-10 years, now people are really under pressure and they think that let us get it fixed now.
Do you think the country needs fixing?
I wouldn't say so, but I am not the majority. So if the majority have the feeling that I'm a Democrat, if it is indeed the majority that is making a call on the president that there is something wrong and we think you can fix it soon, Mr. President, fix it for us, then by all means, I'm sure the president will listen. And we have seen the president listen even to smaller groups of people when there have been issues in his government and he needed to act in a certain way. Anytime there has been public pressure on some decisions he has to take or has taken, we have seen him respond positively to what the public
responding positively.
Yes.
Do you think government's response to the Fix the Country movement has been positive?
I haven't seen a government response per se yet. I mean, when somebody says fix something, I believe it will be
Well, there
action.
been individual commentary
Yes.
from different people in government concerning the Fix the Country movement.
Like I am doing now.
One of the things that people have criticized is the fact that the police put an injunction on their protest. An injunction which was overturned by the Supreme Court, in fact, which actually validates people's disagreement with the injunction in the first place. Are you one of the people who agree to the injunction, disagree with the injunction?
But isn't it beautiful, as a democracy, to see the institutions of state at work? You are a public pressure group. You want to exercise your democratic rights. The law allows you to exercise it. But the same
so
law,
put an injunction on it when the
but
law
the same
allows
law also allows the police, based on their view of what you want to do, its implications to law and order and national security.
What would be its implications to law and order? It's just young people
I wouldn't know,
asking questions.
But I'm talking of the police have information that you and I do not have at any given time.
Probably.
So they will put your request or your information in context by putting that in the bigger picture of where the nation sits. They also need to protect you, and so they will look at their own logistical arrangements and see whether at this time, based on whatever it is they are doing, you don't even know whether there's some conference coming into town or some other duties that they are engaging or exercises. So they'll put all this together and make a determination for themselves that are we able to provide this group the needed security at this time or not. And that is why the law also gives them room to go to court based on that. And they go to court. You are still free to appeal or petition the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, like you're saying, can then say, well, we've listened to this group, we've listened to the police, but in this matter, we think this is the way to go. That is why I said it is beautiful that for us, the only problem, is that we tend to attribute everything to the power of the president when institutions of state are working. That is one of our challenges. We don't want to believe that the police can be so independent-minded that they can do such an analysis of the situation and determine for themselves that we can't allow this to happen at this time. And we also sometimes do not even want to believe that the Supreme Court can be independent in its thinking. But in this case, we are happy then that the Supreme Court suddenly finds that the police cannot injunct this particular process. So we should have confidence, and I should say that this goes to even debunk some assertions in some sections of society over the period that the president, that there has been some, if you will, culture of silence and all those things. I'm sure you've heard about those things. But these are the institutions of state that's working. And so,
but doesn't that feed into that? I mean, if there's a prevailing conversation about seeming culture of silence, and then you place an injunction on protesters, doesn't that feed into that?
You and I sitting here, do we feel like somebody doesn't want us to talk?
I have not risen up in protest. Who knows? Because other people will look at it and say, oh, there's going to be a pushback against anyone who decides to protest.
See, my view really about this issue of culture of silence has been that for culture of silence to prevail, the first thing you would have seen government do is to try to control the channels of broadcasting. Okay, which in this instance, in this modern era, would have been the internet. You know what happens in other countries, I don't want to mention names, some very big countries where the entire internet
social media outlets
are censored. Exactly. Because indeed and in truth, my social media handles may have more listenership than a lot of...
Yeah, but that's extreme action. but you can still see it in varying...
But I will come to that in a moment. But what I'm trying to say is that if I don't see a government trying to control these channels and trying to censor and block it, then that element will not be present.
Right.
What rather exists that I have seen is that this particular government has been able to put in place a very solid communications apparatus and infrastructure in terms of getting its issues out and defending its policies. I was part of the Kufuor administration, as your introduction said. And one of the things we complained about amongst ourselves was our inability back then to properly put out what the government was doing and defend our own policies at the time.
To the masses. Huh?
Yeah, to the masses. And I think this government is doing an excellent job at it. But it is probably then coming across as if that means that they are attacking a section of the media. For instance, when the president in his rebuttal on this issue cited the name of one media house and said, as an example, that for instance, this media house that has been running a campaign against the free SHS, if I were to, this is the president speaking, if I were to give a spirited defense of my free SHS, would that be then taken to mean that I am trying to push down and push back on what they are doing? The president, by being president, does not have to lose the right to defend himself and his policies. But you
see, this media house was not exactly campaigning against free SHS, which many thought saying that they campaigned against free SHS was a bit of an exaggeration, because they were simply, according to them, highlighting the difficulties that parents involved in free SHS, whose wards are enjoying free SHS, are facing.
But that's exactly the point.
The policy.
You see, as these opinions are like noses, everyone has one. That is their opinion, that what they are doing does not amount to a campaign. But this is the president's also opinion, that what you are doing amounts to a campaign. Why wouldn't they choose to highlight the positives of the free SHS to encourage participation?
I'm sure they have on other occasions. When there are challenges, you have to highlight those also.
I agree that that can be done. But I'm saying that if your station decides that we'll highlight the positives of free SHS, I'm sure the opposition NDC or opposition CPP or PNC or other political parties may look at that and say you are campaigning for free SHS, and by extension you are supporting government policy. You understand? So I see that statement, for instance, from the president as a rhetoric to say that does that action amount to what people are talking about, a culture of silence, you know. But then you hear people pick on that particular and say, hey, there and there the president is even attacking a media house and deepening the culture of silence.
But you see, when we talk about this particular allegation of a culture of silence, there have been heavy voices associated with it. Key among them, Sam Jonah. We've also had some journalists being very vocal about it. More recently, we also witnessed what happened to Caleb Kuda at National Security. Aren't all these uncomfortable situations?
So we need to try to dissect issues in this country and not always bunch them together to create a certain impression.
But doesn't that create a negative image
I have read
already?
some commentary on Sam Jonah's assertions. And what he describes, in my view, is a systemic problem. Okay, he starts off, he talks about the challenges of our constitution. With all due respect, the president didn't write the constitution. The powers he enjoys under the constitution has been enjoyed already by 4 previous presidents. Same powers. Indeed, when it came to him making...
The same constitution has been reviewed a few times, and...
Well, some few articles have been amended, those that are not entrenched, a few of them.
And there are others who, especially some lawyers, also call for a serious amendment.
The last administration attempted to amend it. Then there was a serious lacuna as to even the process by which the amendment should take, which halted the entire process. But the point I was making earlier was that when you read Sam Jonah's thing that he put out there, I get the impression that he's complaining of a systemic thing and not something particularly directed at the current administration. He talks about, that's why I started with the Constitution, and the Constitution was not written by the President. We have all at one point or another decided and agreed upon that the presidents who have passed through have all had too much power under the Constitution. But that is the Constitution as we have now. Indeed, I was full of admiration when the President came to Parliament to get specific legislation passed on how he could exercise his powers during the COVID era. He had other provisions in the Constitution that he could rely on to exercise those powers. But he came to Parliament for Parliament to legislate on how he could exercise some powers in that situation, because the Constitution did not specifically touch on a pandemic. It talks about war and other things, you know. So,
Honorable, let's move to ECOWAS.
okay.
Besides the problems in Ghana, our neighbors also have their issues.
Right.
You mentioned one of them being, you know, censoring of key media outlets.
Yeah.
We have a few unrests in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Nigeria. We have seen recent issues, friction between the youth and the government, culminating in the banning of Twitter even. Does the ECOWAS have a role in this?
The ECOWAS certainly has a role.
And I'm asking because you were part of Ghana's delegation for some 10 years?
9 years.
9 years.
Yes, I was in ECOWAS for about 9 years. And one of the things I personally was pushing for was the creation of an early warning systems around our Sahelian borders. You know, when the issues in Libya occurred, a lot of small arms were released into that region. And it's a very, very, very porous region. That is why since that time we've seen a lot of instability in Mali. That's where it started, from the Gao area, and then started coming downwards until it is now hitting close to home. Just around.
You're saying it's a ripple effect from the issues in Libya?
Yes, because first of all, those small arms were released into that region. Then it became also very difficult to police and secure that area. It attracted the likes of IS,
terrorist groups.
Terrorist groups, Boko Haram fested around the place, you know. So it became an enclave where all international terrorist groups and cells began to grow and operate from. And now as they grow outwards, they are expanding their activities towards our northern borders. So when I was at ECOWAS, we advocated for the creation of a very strong regional military body to sort of secure that northern Sahelian border for the entire region, not for any particular country, because it's so difficult for any of those countries there alone
to do it.
And these are vast borders that they have there. And also to have early warning systems in the region so that military activity could kick off in a very short and timely manner to respond to some of these threats. I know that as a country, we've done very well over the decades to ensure that our country remains safe. But for how long can we sustain that? Looking at the kind of pressures that has been occurring just around our immediate, we've seen bloody clashes in Togo during their last election. We've seen several clashes in Cote d'Ivoire over the last 10, 15 years. We've seen Burkina terrorism and all this happening. So all the three countries that we are surrounded with have seen some major violent activities, civil wars or terrorist attacks. And so we cannot continue to exist the way we do. We need to get ECOWAS to act in some
But why does
direction.
ECOWAS seem to be more reactive than proactive, especially where these issues are concerned? You've mentioned this solution, which has not even been looked at or commenced. There's also the issues in Nigeria. Recently, we had End SARS, which had a few clashes. Some claimed there was clashes between the military and the youth. Now we have the banning of Twitter, which is a direct breach of human rights. The ECOWAS is silent through all of this. When it escalates, has the ECOWAS really done its job?
You know, one of the biggest challenges of ECOWAS has been the fact that each country has its own major internal problems. And so regional issues tend to be easily pushed to the back burner. Whilst at the same time also, these countries have different electoral timetables. And so whilst you're busy wanting to discuss a regional issue, a leader is faced with their own internal contests, and they are very busy. And it could be even the leader of the head or the leader of the head of the authorities of heads of states could be the one, the chair could be the very person that's under threat at home. 2019, when Buhari was going for elections in Nigeria, he was also the chairman of ECOWAS, and he was busy campaigning, so you could imagine. So these are some of the things that are plaguing the sub-region. It makes the regional body not as firm as it could be. Do not also forget that we are still getting a whole lot of these countries getting into civil war once in a while, and even their membership being tested and questioned. Not too long ago, the delegation to ECOWAS Parliament from, I think, Mali was sent out of the Parliament because it's a military regime there. It is not...
That's another clear example of the ECOWAS being slow to act.
Exactly. It's not the people who have been elected by adult suffrage in their country, because the ECOWAS Charter, the text talks about the members coming from their national parliament at this time. And when the junta in Mali sent this delegation, they had not been elected by their people. But then there was a conflict also because this same group have been accepted by the heads of authority, you know. So,
but we also know that Mali was recently suspended from the ECOWAS,
yes,
which is because they staged a second coup.
Yes.
The second coup in about 9 months.
Yes.
But the ECOWAS has been privy and witness to the issues within Mali, and has failed again
so we
to step in.
we need also to be consistent. If we say that we will not accept any coup d'etat, then we should not pick and choose which coup d'etat we will accept and which one we will not accept.
Because it just sets a bad example for other African countries.
But then there are also peculiarities within
Mali.
As I alluded to earlier, the issues of around the Gao area is mounting a lot of internal pressure, to the point where you could either have the country split up, or they could even say we've even left ECOWAS altogether. So it also has to be handled with a lot of tact.
In fact, we even had some Malian journalists and some security experts right here on this program, and we discussed the issues. It looks like the military have become very synonymous with power within Mali.
Yes.
And the citizens have gotten overly used to the military. But shouldn't we have a definite clamp down on coups whatsoever? Because how do they migrate to democratic rule properly if ECOWAS continues to tolerate this kind of different
I agree with you on that, that the regional body has to be very firm in that regard, that we will not tolerate coup d'etat no matter what. But as I said, Mali is beginning to present a very special situation. And so the authority of heads, heads of state and governments must also look a little keener and deeper into the issues of Mali. And that is where I think that a regional force staying in Mali for a longer period of time, like we had a COMOG in Monrovia, bringing the activities of Charles Taylor and other groups down. That is how Liberia became stabilized. But in Mali, the effort has to be much bigger, because
so the situation in Mali is more volatile.
More volatile.
It's a
much larger country. The factors there are very complex. You have all kinds of interest groups and terrorist groups operating there. So if you are taking regional force there, it has to be a well-resourced force and a force of significant proportions.
What about the present suspension of Mali? Was it the best move? Because at this point, the ECOWAS should be drawing them closer. Is a suspension in any way going to ensure that the issue comes, to reasonable limits?
I would have thought that even the very first one, that's where it should have started from.
The suspension?
Yes.
Okay.
So
you're in favor of the suspension?
Yeah, then they know that, listen, you can't have this at all. I think, was it Guinea-Bissau also had a similar problem back then, and within months, because of either a suspension or a threat of suspension, they went back quickly to the democratic governance. Once you come in and there's an indication that you could be suspended, and you present a reasonable timetable for return to normalcy, I'm sure the regional body will look at that and continue and tolerate you for that period. But some come in and they think that they can exist without even responding to the issues that will be raised by the regional body.
If you're still watching, this is Spotlight on MX24 television. We are having a conversation with Honorable Frederick Opare-Ansah. He's the former Member of Parliament for the Suhum Constituency. We'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, this conversation continues. We have some interesting questions to ask him. Stay with us.
Pepsodent introduces charcoal and lemon essence. The unique combination of natural essences whitens teeth naturally for you and family, because every smile matters.
For skin that's dull and dry, Vaseline Cocoa Glow with pure cocoa and shea butter, blended with micro droplets of Vaseline jelly, revealing glowing radiant skin for glowing radiance.
Nana, come and help me. You need to learn.
But I'm more interested in drawing.
How are you going to be part of the business if you don't learn?
You just don't understand.
Morning. Anyone for some Lipton?
The rich taste of Lipton awakens body and mind.
Let me have a look at your drawings. Son, these designs are amazing.
Lipton Yellow Label Tea, awaken to what really matters.
Smiles are one of the most important things we have. Globally, 1 in 2 children suffer from cavities. Pepsodent with maximum cavity protection repairs tiny holes before they become cavities. Because every smile matters.
Welcome back to Spotlight. Thank you for staying. We're continuing our conversation with Honorable Frederick Opare-Ansah, who is former Member of Parliament for the Suhum Constituency. Before we went on the break, we're talking about ECOWAS and its role in some of these disturbances. During your time as a member of Ghana's ECOWAS delegation, there was an interesting incident that occurred in February 2017. Do you remember what incident I'm referring to?
January.
Great. Now, the what exactly happened? You know, we in Abuja, there was a refusal by the organization to swear in Ghana's delegation because the membership exceeded the required number, and the accusations by different people was that you refused to step down from your position. What happened out there?
Well, thank you. I actually refused to talk about this matter when the accusations were flying left, right, center, but I hadn't done anything at all. I wasn't at fault in any way. So the rules of ECOWAS are that when you are a member sworn in, you exit in one of about 4 ways. Either you are dead, or you get appointed to a ministerial portfolio. ECOWAS Parliament doesn't accept ministers. Or you resign your position from ECOWAS Parliament, or you lose your seat in your
Constituency.
Yes. I was sworn in for my second term in ECOWAS Parliament in 2016. 2016.
Okay.
With other...
So it was barely a year later.
Yes, with other members of Ghana's delegation. So then we came back from an election. I had actually traveled to the U.S., attending the U.S. presidential inauguration back then. When Ghana, because we had come back from an election, some members of the delegation had been appointed or were going to be appointed as ministers. In fact, some had been nominated as ministers of state. I think Ayoko Butchie, Dambuchi, and then the fourth person had left Parliament. That was Honorable Opare-Ansah, who is the Ashanti Regional Minister. So on the Ghana side, we were 4. So basically, I was the only one left. But I was sworn in at ECOWAS. Then the NDC side had a few other, about I think 2 people who had left Parliament and 2 who were still in Parliament remained on the delegation. So all Ghana needed to do was to write to ECOWAS Parliament introducing the new members who are replacing those who have left.
So where was the miscommunication? How didn't you know?
The miscommunication came from Ghana's Parliament writing to ECOWAS Parliament with a completely new set of people. So I came from the US. I had received an invitation from ECOWAS to attend a session, and I traveled there, only for the other 8 to also appear. Indeed, the speaker was going to send them back to Ghana, and I intervened and explained to the speaker that it would be better he allows the delegation to sit and for one person to stand down so that he would then be able to swear in the remaining 7. I did not need any swearing in. I was already attending meetings when they arrived.
Right, but the communication was that you were supposed to have stepped off the delegation.
I don't know where that communication came from. Nobody has discussed any... it's like asking me when I've come from Suhum to Ghana Parliament, and you are saying I've brought a new member from Suhum, so you step down. This is what it amounts
to. So if Parliament had communicated to you that they wanted you to step down from the delegation,
on what basis would Parliament communicate that to me? Because of what?
They have reconstituted the delegation.
They don't have that power.
I see.
Parliament of Ghana did not have that power. If the Parliament of Ghana had that power, then in reconstituting and giving those 8 names, it would have stood in ECOWAS Parliament. But they didn't have that power. The ECOWAS protocol put in these protective measures to prevent the members of the ECOWAS Parliament from yielding to home pressure on decisions that are taken at the ECOWAS Parliament. So if I'm a member of ECOWAS Parliament, my home Parliament cannot, in an ad hoc manner, remove me because they are trying to get me to toe maybe a certain line, and I do not want to toe that line in the Parliament.
Are you saying there were some other issues back home?
No. I am just saying that as a general principle, that layer of protection. That is why the ECOWAS protocol that sets up the parliament is structured that way. So once the national parliament nominates you, you go in and get sworn in at ECOWAS parliament.
But why would they nominate others when if your position is still valid?
That question will be best redirected to other people. I have absolutely no idea how that happened. But what I know is
during that time, the majority leader was Honorable Osechi Mensah Bonsu. Did you have any issues with him?
Not at all. I've never had issues with him. I worked with him as a whip when he was minority leader. I was the minority chief whip. Subsequently, we've enjoyed very great relationships, even up to this day. We've never had any issues. I'm sure there was probably an oversight, and in the haste of when we had just come back from an election, people thought that the Ghana Parliament should reconstitute the entire delegation. But that was not the time for reconstituting the entire delegation. The time to reconstitute the entire delegation is at the expiration of the ECOWAS Parliament itself, when its life expired, which was February last year, when we left the ECOWAS Parliament, February 2020. That was when the Ghana delegation, rightly and truly, was supposed to be completely recomposed, and not at the beginning of a session of Ghana's parliamentary life.
Honorable, let's go to your time in Parliament, Suhum Constituency. 4 terms before your eventual defeat. Did you see it coming? Were you ready to exit the scene when you were defeated at the primaries?
Well, whenever you go for an election, you can believe that there can be only one of 2 possible outcomes.
Either you win or you exit. But you had won 4 times. Did you anticipate that this was when you would finally be defeated?
That's why I was saying that for every one of those 4 times, I always knew that one day
there was a possibility.
An election. So every election I go to, I brace myself for a defeat or for a win. And so you probably can put that into perspective. Before I entered Parliament, nobody had done more than a single term in Suhum from Kwame Nkrumah's days. It has always been a single term.
So a lot of people were describing you as a tactician.
Yes,
you defeated Brian Champong, you defeated Julius Debra,
that's right.
You even defeated the present Member of Parliament at some point. So where did this strong wind come from?
Well, that's why I'm saying that to have done not just 2 terms, but to have done 3 and done 4, I'm sure you can understand that the people in this constituency are used to, if you will, it's like the what's something I like to call the Teshi syndrome. You know how the Lejokuku people, you know you've done well, but as for here is.
So you don't think you did anything wrong? That
I don't think so at all. I've spoken to a lot of people, my delegates.
Was it a matter of fear delegates?
Not really. I think it had gotten to the point where they just felt that, listen,
you needed change.
You've done enough. Let somebody also come so we see the other side. So it was not acrimonious.
But of all the people to defeat you, a newcomer, Obuafu Kojo Asante.
You know, there's a saying in Tree. I say, your boom might also be into me. To wait when the one who beats you hasn't yet arrived, you say nobody can beat you. But that's the nature of politics.
You think there was any connivance behind the scenes to get you out of that
I have
position?
a philosophy in political electioneering, and it is that if you believe that there is some strategy to win the election, and you did not utilize that strategy, then the other guy is a better
candidate.
Yes, because especially at the primary level, if somebody uses some strategy to beat you, then it is good they beat you, because if they hadn't beaten you, then you would have gone to lose the seat to the opposing party.
To the opposition, anyway.
That strategy may have them be available to the opposing party. So it is all well and good that it happened at the primary level, but I'm certainly grateful to the people of Suhum for having me for 16 years. It was such a long
It's
run.
a long time.
Yeah, and also the seat had never been to opposition. Every ruling government had held on to the seat, right until Kufuor. From Nkrumah's days, it was a CPP seat. Buzia came, my grand-uncle, my mom's uncle, Akudaku became the MP. Then came the Liman's PMP. It was a PMP seat. 2 terms Rawlings, it was NDC seat. And Kufuor became MPP. So really, by 2008, my first term, people thought it's going back to the NDC. But I managed to hold on and held on through the 2 terms of the NDC.
Talking about Kufuor's time, a lot of people think you belong to the Kufuor bloc, you are an Alan Chirimantin sympathizer, which people translate automatically into being anti-Nana. Are you anti-Nana?
I don't know what is actually meant by an anti-Nana. And recently, Nana actually asked someone that I heard about. He said, but you are saying this person is a Kufuor person because Kufuor appointed him. But Kufuor made me the Attorney General and Minister of Foreign Affairs. So if you are talking of Kufuor's appointees as being Kufuor's people, then me and I'm the #1 Kufuor person because I got the juiciest of some of the appointments as Attorney General, as Foreign Minister. So why are you referring to people appointed by Kufuor as Kufuor people? It's not as if I'm denying that I was appointed by Kufuor, but the perception that... If
you had an opportunity, would you have chosen someone else besides President Akufo-Addo as the leader of the party presently?
Oh, I did support Alan Chirimantin back then. I mean, there was no secret. But then when Nana won the nomination, I did work extra hard to make sure that we won the seat. So the thing is that having supported one candidate over another does not necessarily translate into being an anti that person.
Right.
No. And that is the notion that we have to begin to get out of our system and out of our
Many
minds.
of your party members have been engaging in an interesting conversation about who the next flag bearer should be. Some seem to even have specific candidates for the job. Majority leader, in fact, Osechi Mensah Bonsu, and I'll quote him in this. In a recent interview, he said he believes Anakan should not succeed President Akufo-Addo after his tenure expires. Do you share these sentiments?
Well, I told you before about opinions and noses. I mean...
But he's a key member of the party.
He is. I've heard people make different arguments.
People endorse a lot of the things he says.
Now, my view at this time is that we are going to face probably our greatest test yet as a party.
You mean for 2024?
For 2024. And trying to retain power through a third election. Okay. As someone put it, the vehicle itself, the wheel has been, all the wheels have been removed and it's being supported on stones, and we are looking for a driver. We should focus first on making sure that the base of the party itself, the base of our party, I told you earlier.
But you see, you cannot avoid that conversation.
The conversation
of who
will get
succeeds.
there. And you don't always have to rush into a conversation. When you put first things first, it is very possible that by the time you get to that determination, it will not even be necessary to have a conversation.
As the majority leader rushed into the conversation?
No, I'm sure he was taken out of context. I've spoken to him severally after this. They were asking him about whether he himself, I think, was interested in. And his view was then about what he talked about because of where he comes from. So I think it's the kind of question he was asked to which he gave the answer that he had to be given. But my view is that we first need to make sure that our base, the people down there, have been really reinvigorated and remotivated, okay, and giving a new reason to fight for retention of power. You know, they've told us that they are willing, they are able, they are ready at any time to go for elections, but they need this new energy. You need that. Then on top of that, you build a superstructure of party executives from the polling station upwards to the national. When you have such a solid thing,
but when you build the body, now you need the head, you need a leader.
Precisely. That's why I'm saying that by the time you are done with making sure the base is okay, and you've put on top of this, it's like you have really rehabilitated the vehicle. So now you can have the conversation of who is best to drive us to 2024. Then several factors will begin to come into play.
Is there any man or woman within the New Patriotic Party that you would throw your support behind, or you would nominate as the next flag bearer of the party?
When the time gets there, as
when
I
is
said,
the time?
When the time gets there, and I've described to you when best will be the time. The party is going to go into internal elections from now, I think January through like June next year. And hopefully by that time, we would have seen what the party looks like.
Do you think Honorable Alan Chimantin will be making his intentions known concerning the position?
I wouldn't know. I haven't spoken to him.
Would you support him again if he made his intentions known?
I am charting a new path in politics. So at this time, I will not be proud to say the primaries. I'm not sure I will be coming out to support a particular candidate based on the path.
You'll be sitting it out?
I'll be.
Will you be sitting it out?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm charting a new path myself in the political arena. And so during that period, I will not be coming out to say that I will support Mr. A or Mr. B.
When you say you are charting a new path in the political arena, which includes, we know you have been engaging party members a lot on your travels. Does it have anything to do with contesting for the NPP's general secretaryship?
I asked somebody last week in Kumasi that why wouldn't they say that I'm going to contest for the flag bearership?
Oh, are you going to be contesting for the flag bearership?
Well, no. But my point is that I want to serve the party. I want to help.
You can serve the party in various capacities.
Yes, and that is why I'm saying that I'm engaging people at all levels of the party, right from the grassroots to the very top of the party, to see what I can do and in which capacity I can serve. And then hopefully, you know, when we say that do not campaign until the party opens nomination and all that, it does not preclude you from engaging internally in the party and seeing what is possible. That's not a campaign, not a campaign, but to try to see what is possible, what you can do, and what people will think about such a thing. But to maybe come on air, on TV, on national radio.
Well, we want to know that people are watching. We have questions.
Luckily, it's a delegates election, so
but we
will know all those delegates who will go for such elections, be it at the polling station level, be it at the constituency, electoral area, regional or national. So,
are you saying you have no intentions of contesting as the general secretary?
I am saying that even if I do have such intention, it will be premature at this point in my view to announce that publicly. But
when are you going to announce that you intend to run as general secretary for the NPP?
From going around and touching base with people in the party and discussing my intention with them.
Your intention of what?
That's if I have such intention.
What's
as like you are trying to
if you have intentions, okay.
If I have any such intentions.
I'm trying to clarify. I mean, so you have intentions of running as Secretary General for the NPP, but you think it's premature to announce it?
I'm saying that even if I have such intention, it will be premature for me to say this publicly. I would prefer, and you know, it's part of the problem.
Are you denying having the intention?
I'm not denying, but I'm not confirming.
But you're saying it's too early to announce it.
Yes, it is too early to make.
It's there, but it's too early.
No, it is too early to make any definitive pronouncement on it in public. But what my view is that at this point, whether you want to contest at polling station, at electoral area, constituency, regional, national, whilst the party timetable outlays this to start from January, hold your horses. After all, it's delegate selections, and you know the delegates. You can touch base with them quietly. You know, we don't need to let there be such tensions in the party. Let our issues be out in the public all the time for us to discuss all party matters publicly. There are party matters which we can discuss in chambers. There are matters that we can bring out, and that is how...
So if we ask you in chambers, will you agree to working towards standing as the General Secretary of the Nuong Faalong
So when we finish and we go into chambers, then I will respond to that.
Oh, okay. That'll be easy. We can ask that. Honorable, are there, you know, any other things you would like to say to your constituent? They're still your constituents.
Yes.
And your party members, although you've been engaging with them already. Do you have any parting words?
Well, what I would say is if we're serious as a party about retaining power in 2024, like I said, we need to begin to look at how to renew the energies and release these energies of party folk at all levels. You know, when you have people who are full in their tummy, when people are satisfied, you don't take them to war. We need to give opportunities to people who are hungry for power, just like the entire party was hungry for power in 2016. So at this point, as we go into the reorganization of the party, people at various levels of the party should be sensitive to people who really are hungry for getting power back for this party. That is the way that, in my view, we'll be able to. The NDC have sat in opposition by 2024 for 8 years. You understand? They would have been very hungry for power. So internally, we would need to also put people out who are also hungry for power.
Doesn't mean nobody from the present administration, because if you need people who are hungry, then it means you need new people.
Well, it's figurative. You can have someone who has even served in some capacity, but there's real hunger for power in them. Because they are probably looking at even changing their portfolio from where they are now to some better portfolio, so they can be hungry. But I'm sure on case-by-case basis, if we do such assessment and we put the party into the hands of people who really want to recapture power, you will see why by the time we are through with the reorganization, it will be easier then to have the conversation of who should lead the MPP in 2024. You know, so let me use the opportunity to thank my constituents for having me for such a long period of time, for tolerating my inadequacies and my my shortcomings, and for supporting me through thick and thin. I truly am grateful. And to the entire nation for the opportunity to serve in Parliament. It's not everybody who goes to school, learns something, and has the opportunity to serve in the National Parliament to impact such such knowledge, to impact the life of the people in the country. I have had that opportunity, and for that I'm grateful.
Thank you so much, Honorable Frederick Opare-Ansah. We are grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight. And to you at home who has been watching, we're grateful for your time. If you have any follow-ups to the conversations, please join us on social media at MX24GH and make your opinions known. My name is Nuong Faalong. We are grateful for your time. Good evening.